Informal popular names for the Medusa phase of several gelatinous members of the subphylum Medusozoa, a significant division of the phylum Cnidaria, are jellyfish and sea jellies. Although some jellyfish are tethered to the seafloor by stalks rather than being mobile, jellyfish are typically free-swimming marine creatures with umbrella-shaped bells and trailing tentacles. To create propulsion for extremely effective movement, the bell can pulse. The stinging cells on the tentacles can be employed to catch prey and fight off predators. Jellyfish have a complicated life cycle, the Medusa stage, which typically results in planula larvae that spread widely and undergo a sedentary polyp phase before reaching sexual maturity, is the sexual phase. All around the world, from surface seas to the deep oceans, jellyfish can be found. The real jellyfish, scyphozoans, are only found in the ocean, however other hydrozoans with a similar appearance exist in freshwater. Globally, coastal zones are frequently home to large, frequently colorful jellyfish. The majority of species Medusae grow quickly, reach maturity within a few months, and then pass away shortly after mating. However, the polyp stage, which is anchored to the seafloor, may live much longer. The oldest multi-organic animal group, jellyfish, have been around for at least 500 million years and possibly for 700 million years or more. In some civilizations, humans consume jellyfish. In several Asian nations, species of the Rhizostomy order are salted and pressed to eliminate excess water, and they are regarded as a delicacy. According to Australian researchers, they are an ideal food, sustainably produced, high in protein, yet relatively low in food energy. As a fluorescent marker for genes transplanted into other cells or creatures, the green fluorescent protein that some species employ to produce bioluminescence has been adopted for use in research. Humans can be hurt by the stinging cells that jellyfish deploy to subdue their prey. Every year, thousands of swimmers are stung all over the world. The results can range from little pain to major injury or even death. When conditions are right, jellyfish can gather in large swarms that can fill fishing nets, destroy fishing equipment, and occasionally clog the cooling systems of power and desalination plants that use seawater for their operations. Since the locations on the seabed where the benthic forms of many jellyfish species occur have not been discovered, little is known about their life histories. An asexually reproducing Strabila form, on the other hand, can occasionally persist for a number of years, giving rise to new Medusae or Ephra larvae every year. Turritopsis dornii, a rare species that was formerly categorized as Turritopsis nitricula, has the unusual ability to change from the Medusa stage back to the polyp stage under specific conditions, avoiding death that usually befalls Medusae post-reproduction if they haven't already been consumed by another organism. This reversal has only been seen in the lab thus far. Jellyfish, for instance the moon jelly Aurelia aurita, have been found to be the most energy-efficient swimmers of all organisms. Their bell-shaped bodies radially expand and compress to force water behind them as they move through the water. Between the periods of contraction and expansion, they halt to form two vortex rings. Although the mesoglea is so elastic that it can only be driven by relaxing the bell, which releases the energy trapped during the contraction of the body is what propels the animal forward and forms the initial vortex. As the second vortex ring accelerates, it draws water into the bell and presses against the body's center, providing a second, free boost forward. The passive energy recapture mechanism, which only functions in relatively small jellyfish moving slowly, allows the creature to move 30% farther per swimming cycle. Comparable research found that jellyfish consumed food and oxygen at a 48% lower cost of transportation than other species. One explanation for this is that the majority of the bell's gelatinous tissue is dormant and doesn't expend any energy while swimming. Like other cnidarians, jellyfish are typically parasitic or carnivorous, eating planktonic animals, crustaceans, small fish, fish eggs, and other jellyfish while passing undigested waste through their mouths. The tentacles, which contain nematocysts to stun or kill the prey, may then flex to assist in bringing it to the mouth. They hunt passively by utilizing their tentacles as drift lines or sinking through the water with their tentacles spread widely. In addition to assisting them in swimming, their bell extends as they swim, sucking in water and bringing more possible prey into reach of the tentacles. One of the most prevalent and significant jellyfish predators are other jellyfish species. Jellyfish that stray into sea anemones territory may be eaten. Sharks, swordfish, sea turtles, and penguins are among more predators. Foxes, other terrestrial creatures, and birds all eat jellyfish that have washed up on the beach. However, jellyfish are generally only eaten by a small number of animals, which are generally thought of as top predators in the food chain. There may be no visible way to restore the former equilibrium once jellyfish have taken over an environment, for example through overfishing that eliminates predators of jellyfish larvae. They devour fish eggs and young fish and compete with fish for food, preventing fish populations from recovering. One attendee, a respected marine biologist, said the observation from the paper was actually totally impossible and that it was an observation made completely by accident. In the late 1980s, two laboratory students collected a Hydrozoa specimen that they believed to be Turritopsis nitricula, a tiny jellyfish-less creature. The paper was presented at the second conference of the Hydrozoa Society. This jellyfish's life cycle begins when adult jellyfish in their recognizable Medusa swarm and release millions of eggs and sperm. Most jellyfish species will swarm in the hundreds or even thousands for the purpose of reproducing. When a sperm successfully fertilizes an egg, the fertilized egg will grow into a planula, a tiny floating larva. Within a day or two the planula will stick to a hard surface like the seafloor, a rock, or first studies have shown that the Medusa does not appear to contain stem cells, a type of cell that has the potential to be transformed into any kind of cell, so it must be the case that its existing cells are repurposed. This is when a cell of one type transforms into an entirely different type of cell directly without turning into a neutral intermediate form. Naturally, the cells that make up a Medusa's dome are different from the cells that make up a polyp. They have different roles best suited to different needs. However, scientists have discovered that the cells of the top layer of the dome shape of the Medusa and the canal system, which is essentially the jellyfish's digestive system, are the most likely to get transformed into new cell types. The immortal jellyfish may induce these specialized Medusa cells to differentiate into polyp cells through a process known as transdifferentiation. The immortal jelly can turn cells back into their earlier state at any point in their life cycle, whether they are a newly produced Medusa or an old-timer on the verge of death, contrary to long-held beliefs about aging in the animal kingdom. It is believed that sexual maturation for any animal marks a point of no return and that cells are stuck doing what they will always do until they reach senescence cell death. Similar to the plastic bits on our shoelaces, telomeres are DNA strands found at the ends of chromosomes that serve as a protective barrier for the rest of our DNA, especially during cell replication. Every time a cell divides, a small amount of telomere DNA is lost, but because they are so long, it takes a lot of telomere DNA to be lost before any of the important DNA is affected. Eventually, however, their adaptability has undoubtedly contributed to their capacity to survive through a wide range of conditions and distances. In the wild, this might continue for much longer, possibly forever, in an infinite loop of back and forth transdifferentiations, as researchers have discovered that a single Turritopsis dohrnii can regenerate 10 times at intervals as brief as 1 month. Although it's unlikely that we'll ever be able to Benjamin Button ourselves, there are things we can learn from this jellyfish that may help us prevent some of the diseases that afflict us later in life. Transdifferentiation is an interesting field for scientists because the ability to transform one cell into another in few to no steps and over a short period of time could lead to treatments for conditions like Parkinson's. Imagine if we could transform skin cells into neuronal cells. Having said that, even though humans and jellyfish have DNA that is relatively similar when you consider how different, we still separated from one another on the tree of life at some point. Additionally, some genes in jellyfish aren't expressed in humans and vice versa, so there may be some restrictions on what is applicable. The natural world, including organisms large and small like jellies, trees, microbes, and fungi, likely hold answers that we can't even imagine right now, but as we discover more biodiversity and as our scientific technology becomes increasingly sophisticated, we are likely to. Although Teratopsis dohrnii was discovered in 1883, we only learned that it might be immortal in the 1980s, and we're also learning that there may be other immortal creatures out there.